parents, when did you realize you'd raised an idiot? I don't think he's a complete idiot, but his common sense is definitely broken. He puts food in his mouth, it's too hot, and he screams like he's dying, but doesn't spit it out. He just yells, "Mom, it's hot." And I'm like, "Well, I told you to wait, or then blow on it." He goes, "No," and keeps chewing, crying. In his defense, his dad's exactly the same. Fracture 13. Standing there, breathing like a chased horse, turning his head around, I already started to panic. With one hand, I'm dialing the loony bin and asking, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I farted trying to sniff it all out myself so you wouldn't have to." Idiot, but caring. You can't argue with that. When they thought the car was on fire, turns out it was just a busted radiator, which looks kind of similar. Those geniuses just kept driving anyway, and then even parked the car in the garage that's attached to the house. My brother couldn't remember the word shoes, so he called them foothouses. That was the day Mom finally accepted that at least one of her teenagers is a bit of an idiot. He knew there was a frozen pizza in the garage, but somehow couldn't find it. It never even occurred to him to check the freezer. I love this comment. I can picture the whole scene. You ask, "Did you check the freezer?" Then comes about 15 seconds of silence and a look of complete realization, followed by the kid quietly shuffling back to the garage. Nothing like that has happened to me, and I hope it never will. But my dad once said something almost identical about my brother. He told me about their conversation. When my brother's third kid was born, the baby looked nothing like him. So Dad suggested he get a DNA test. My brother said, "It's too late." Dad was like, "What do you mean, too late?" And my brother goes, "Well, all the DNA's mixed together now. There's no way to tell who the real father is." Dad tried to explain how DNA actually works, but my brother just wouldn't believe him. For Dad asked why he didn't at least try. He was already paying child support for a kid he'd only seen for a total of 12 hours. My brother just shrugged and said, "There's only 21 years left anyway. What's the point of wasting time on that now?" I'm an idiot myself. When I applied to college, I misspelled my own middle name. I didn't notice for 4 whole years because everything only showed my initials. Right before graduation, I showed my diploma to my parents, and my mom looked at me like I was special. The worst part, I honestly thought that's how it was supposed to be spelled. I told my sister to text Mom and let her know she'd forgotten her phone at home. When my son was 3, he was getting ready to take a bath. I looked at him and noticed his underwear looked kind of weird, but I was busy with our second kid, so I didn't think much of it. Then I saw him take off one pair of underwear, then a second, then a third. I asked, "Why on earth are you wearing 3 pairs of underwear?" He looked at me like I was the idiot and said, "Mom said I have to wear clean ones every day." He's not autistic or anything. He's actually grown up to be a math Olympiad winner across all the schools in our big city. But even in his 20s, you still have to explain everything to him literally, or he'll take it at face value. When one of my daughters tried to insult the other by calling her ugly, even though they're identical twins. My cousin got caught with weed in her school locker. When the cops showed up, she said, "I wasn't going to smoke it, I just sell it." No further comments. Getting ready to go, I call out to my son. He says, "Yeah, just putting on my socks." I wait a while, nothing. So I go check. He's sitting there in his underwear, playing with Lego. Completely forgot what I asked him to do. Edit. I wasn't home when it happened. Didn't expect this comment to blow up. For context, he was about 8 at the time. Most likely, he just got distracted by his toys. Then thought, "Oh, right, I need to get dressed." Took off his shirt and, oops, Lego time. Not a reason for medication. That's just how he is. He's doing better now. But honestly, he can still get lost in his own thoughts just as easily. Hey, well, he's definitely not an idiot. But this story is hilarious. We had a guy who mowed our lawn. I always left his check in a bag under the doormat by the front door. One weekend, I was on the phone and asked my son, "Go change that check in the bag under the doormat." I went back to my conversation and completely forgot about it. A couple of days later, the gardener calls and says he couldn't find the check anywhere. I go outside, lift up the doormat, No check. He was surprised since he thought we were good clients. Honestly, I was confused too. I looked behind the bushes, around the decorations, nothing. And then I decided to think like my son. I looked under the doormat inside the house, and voila, the check was right there. We still crack up every time we remember that story. My son was upset after his sex ed class. He thought they were going to teach them some moves. There was this time I made my dad drive around the neighborhood with me because something in my car was making a dull knocking sound when I turned. After about 15 minutes, he gave his verdict. There's a baseball bat rolling around in your trunk. Edit. Yeah, I had a similar moment, but this time it was with his car. Turned out the mysterious knocking sound came from his sunglasses rattling around in the built-in glasses compartment. I asked my 14-year-old daughter to cut a piece of cake. She cut it, forgot why, and ate it herself. Our son came to visit us. He wasn't living with us anymore. We weren't home, so he let himself in. When we came back, he looked absolutely horrified. We asked what happened, and he said he thought he broke our new cat. Something was wrong with it. I asked what exactly, because the cat looked fine. Then she jumped on my lap and started vibrating. That's how he learned that cats can purr. Apparently, he hadn't really dealt with cats before. Edit. Nice to know we're not the only ones. He's not dumb, of course, but sometimes he says things that make you just shake your head. When my son was 11, he confidently told me he knew everything there is to know because he tried to think of something he didn't know and couldn't come up with anything. My 14-year-old son went into the fitting room with 5 pairs of pants. I waited 15 minutes and twice called into the men's fitting area. You okay in there? He came out and said he couldn't find his shorts. He handed me 3 pairs of pants he'd tried on. No shorts anywhere. I went inside and there they were, rolled up and stuck inside one of the pant legs. You could totally see them. He swore he'd taken off his shorts before trying on the new pants, so it never even occurred to him to look for them there. I was shocked. And mind you, he's in the gifted program. About 10 to 12 years ago, when there was that recall of Peter Pan peanut butter because of salmonella, my 15-year-old daughter caught the news on TV while walking by. She stopped, watched for a moment, and suddenly lit up and said, "Oh, so that's what they meant. Peanut butter. I've been hearing all day at school about how Peter Pan was killing people all over the country." She thought he'd turned into some kind of villain or something. I just stared at her, waiting for her to say she was joking, that she didn't actually think Peter Pan was a real person. But nope. She just calmly went to her room like we'd just discussed the most normal thing in the world. I'm not a parent, but when I was 14, I thought the smell of gasoline was the smell of natural gas. So I called the gas company and asked them to come check it out. They showed up and said, "Well, it smells like gasoline, not gas." And that's when I realized I was an idiot. But they checked the house anyway, and it turned out there actually was a gas leak in the basement. Had to replace the boiler for $3,000. My friend, who's African American, has a son. One day the kid asked him, "Dad, do white people poop white poop? 'Cause we're brown and we poop brown." When my oldest was 11, I let him stay up late with me and my roommate. This was before I met my wife, just me, a single dad, and my kid. Anyway, he was 11. 11, that's important. We were watching the Colbert Report. Stephen makes a joke that something in Congress was as likely as passing a bill with Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, and the Easter Bunny. I chuckled. My son suddenly sits straight up. "Wait, Dad, what did he just say? Can you explain that?" I thought, oh, great, he's confused about politics. So I say, "Well, those two politicians just can't agree." He says, "Yeah, I got that, but what else did he say?" At this point, my roommate, who'd been glued to his laptop the whole time, looks up and starts paying attention. I say, "He meant it's as unlikely as meeting Santa Claus." "Who?" my son asks. "Or, the Tooth Fairy." He's still staring. "Or the Easter Bunny," I add. Now my roommate's cracking up. I'm just sitting there, totally lost, like, what is even happening? Then it hits me. I look at my son and ask, "Wait, you thought the Easter Bunny was real? Like actually sneaks into the house and hides eggs?" My roommate's laughing his head off. My son slowly sinks into the couch, hides his face in a pillow, and I can see tears welling up from anger, disappointment, maybe heartbreak. The poor kid just found out the truth out of nowhere. The wild part? When he was 7, he told me Santa wasn't real, that it was just parents dressing up. I thought we were past that stage. Later that night, when I was tucking him in, he whispered, "I just thought he stopped coming because I got too old." Thank you so much for watching. Parents, drop a comment below and tell us, when did you realize you'd raised an idiot? And don't forget to check out our other videos. Also, make sure to eat well and get some good sleep today. Big hug. See you next time.